With invisibility comes silence. What we fail to see, we also fail to discuss. Hi, I'm Mary Johnson. I'm a first year here at the University of Virginia, and I'm not here today to tell you what I've seen. I'm here to tell you what I have not seen, and what a majority of Americans are unable to see. That being said, I want you to imagine someone who's hungry. Your mental picture probably involves the visible type of hunger. When asked to imagine someone that's hungry, our mind usually jumps to someone that is thin and frail. They usually have defining facial characteristics like hollow cheeks and sunken eyes, and probably a somber look on their face. But it's the invisible type of hunger that surrounds us. This invisible hunger has the ability to disguise itself behind the smiling faces of our friends and neighbors. And it descends on every community differently, making it a dynamic and evolving issue. So, what can we do to better understand this invisible kind of hunger? Well, first we need to evaluate the lens through which we view hunger. And then we need to break the silence and start a conversation. But it's impossible to break the silence when we cannot see or recognize the issue. So first we need to understand the unique forms hunger takes here in the United States. Food insecurity, in the most basic sense, means that you do not know when your next meal will be. Food insecurity is not a plague that preys on homeless individuals. It can infiltrate the homes of your coworkers, classmates, and neighbors. In fact, 1 in 9 Americans are food insecure. Now look around you and imagine that 1 out of every 9 people in this audience doesn't know when their next meal will be. So why does food insecurity happen? Why is it so common? I thought we lived in the wealthiest country in the world. Well, when understanding food insecurity, we must understand that it does not affect everyone the same way. And not everybody is living in this constant state of uncertainty. In fact, many Americans find themselves in a state of food insecurity after losing their job, or after an expensive medical bill, or after moving to a new city that has a higher rate of living than in other places. Consequently, these individuals affected by food insecurity can blend into the crowd of hardworking Americans who, like the rest of us, go to work and pick their kids up from school and walk their dog around the neighborhood. In recent decades, the visual appearance of someone that's hungry has changed. But our mental idea of that hungry person has not adapted to meet this changing appearance of hunger in America. When medical bills and utility bills begin to eat away at a family's food budget, a cost-to-calorie trade-off must be considered. If I only have X amount of money for food this week, do I buy the more expensive perishable food, or do I buy the more inexpensive, high-calorie food that can sit on my shelf for a while and make me feel fuller longer? Do I buy the apple or the donut? Do I buy the hamburger off of the dollar menu at McDonald's, or do I make myself a salad? Because it's cheaper to make that meal a combo than it is to add grilled chicken to my salad. When your food budget is tight, it's all about making the little money that you do have stretch. And oftentimes the best way to make that dollar stretch is to buy higher calorie, starch-filled foods. And as a result, we see obesity among this food insecure population on a steady incline. Up to this point, I've defined food insecurity as uncertainty regarding when your next meal will be. But in reality, it is much more complex. Food insecurity is defined as not having reliable access to a sufficient supply of affordable, nutritious food. So when asked to imagine a hungry person, does your mind jump to the homeless person holding a cardboard sign? Well, the reality is that there are more hungry children in the United States than there are hungry adults. Tonight, 1 in 7 children are going to sleep without sufficient nutrients. Now, while some of these children will go to sleep with nothing at all, others will go to sleep lacking the kind of food that their growing body requires. So for 1 in 7 children, they are not able to get the nutrients they need to grow and to succeed. And nutritional deprivation in the early years of life is proven to affect cognitive and physical development. In the United States, we pride ourselves in this idea of the American dream, the belief that every American has the opportunity to succeed through avenues like the public school system. The belief that through hard work, even the highest of aspirations is attainable. But for these 1 in 7 children, hunger strangles this American dream. A child that sits in a classroom distracted by the growling of their stomach is not able to focus, is not able to listen, and is not able to learn. In the United States, we spend $706 billion on our public school system to build new buildings, to have advanced technology, and to hire dedicated teachers. But for that child that goes to school hungry, they are not able to take advantage of those resources. And as for the American dream, that child cannot seize the opportunities afforded to them. Now, it's hard to believe in a country of such wealth and abundance that 1 in 9 Americans are hungry. And despite the efforts of organizations working hard to combat hunger and food insecurity in the United States, hunger is on the rise. So how do you help someone who's hungry? Well, you give that hungry person food, right? So as a result, we see food banks. We see food banks popping up all over the country with lines of people stretching around the block. These people are willing to devote hours of their day to wait in line for the chance of getting some food. The current way that food is allocated in our community begins with food banks that are these storage centers that store food that they receive and then distribute it to local food pantries. Now, these food banks are largely dependent on donations, and as a result, when they receive a donation, it can sit on the shelf at the food bank for a while before it is distributed out to the community. Now, because of this longer turnover rate, a lot of these food banks can only accept non-perishable foods, and as a result, they receive and distribute a lot of high-calorie, starch-based foods, further contributing to issues like obesity. But despite the inadequacies, these food banks are doing fantastic work. But this solution is only temporary. We need to find solutions that are sustainable, solutions that can provide a constant supply of affordable, nutritious food. So how can we achieve this? Where can we find this constant supply of affordable, easily attainable, nutritious food? Well, according to the USDA, in the United States, we waste 40% of the food we produce. This is not entirely a poverty issue. We have the food to feed our neighbors, and in fact, it's sitting right down the street. In the United States, 84% of the food produced in the food that goes unused in American restaurants is disposed of, while 14.5% is recycled, and only 1.5% is donated. Food waste is not efficient, and it's not economical. This inefficiency that is food waste could be combated through basic economic principles like price discrimination. So what does this mean in terms of food? Well, in the United States, there's a group of people who are willing to pay the listed price for produce. But there's another group who is unable to pay this listed price. But their desire for healthy food is in no way diminished by their inability to pay for it. Consequently, if we could find a way to take this unused food and allocate it to people in the community at a lower, more affordable price, we could not only reduce waste, but also feed these people healthy food that they desire. So what does the solution look like? Well, it could be maybe a form of low-cost grocery stores, born out of a mutually beneficial relationship between local charities and food hubs like restaurants and farmers markets. If we give restaurants the opportunity to sell the produce that they would otherwise dispose of, then they are able to cut a portion of their losses no matter how small. This solution is about efficiency. It's about uniting sectors of our community to feed our neighbors. But this is only one possible solution. And the faces and forms that hunger takes in the United States are different in every region, in every city, and in every neighborhood. For example, right here in Charlottesville, 1 in 6 people are food insecure. Now, some key contributors to this striking statistic are the lack of affordable housing, the high cost of living, and its designation as a hub for refugee resettlement. But just as hunger disguises itself differently in every community, the solutions have to adapt to the needs of that community. So I wish I could stand before you here today with the cure to hunger in America. But the truth is there's not a one-size-fits-all solution. The issue of food insecurity is so much bigger than a 10-minute TED Talk will allow. But in the meantime, we could be doing things better. We could be taking more action. We could be having more conversations. So let's break the silence.